Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com, BidamountLive.com, and P.L. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, June 18th, 2021, and this is our weekly video, a look and take a look back, see how things went over on eBay last week, what's happening on live auctioneers, what's happening on the global member pages for the subscribers out there. There's been a lot happening. It's been a very busy week. And I'm going to start out. First I wanted to mention was if you haven't seen it, I know a lot of you have, but if you've missed it, we did a video earlier this week on that book, Marks on Chinese Ceramics by Gerald Davidson. I've heard from a number of you, you've gotten it or you're about to get it and so forth, and everybody loves the book. And I obviously have a copy that he sent me to take a look at it, and I'm already dog-earing the thing. So if you haven't checked the video out yet and you're interested in marks and rain marks and date marks and all that business on Chinese ceramics, you check the video, and you ought to get it for your library. You really should, because as I mentioned in the video, they're already turning up on eBay. Somebody's asking $450 for a copy of it, and you can buy it directly from the author for 60 pounds plus shipping to wherever you are. So it's a very good deal. Alrighty, so check that out. And now over to the global member pages this week on the Bidamount site. There's been a lot of stuff has turned up. This is the live auctioneers page. The invaluable page is pretty full. And as many of you know, Rob Michaels has a sale coming up in just about a week. In about 6 days, as always, he's got some very good things. Lots of good early Chinese blue and white. Lots of familial rose porcelain. This is all his stuff. It's on the global pages. If you want to fan through it, we've loaded, I think, all of the sale on here. There's a lot of material. It's a 3-day auction. He's got some nice premium lots as always, and it looks like a good auction. We did a preview on it last week, but I just wanted to remind everybody. And then further down on the page, let's keep going. There's a bounty of other auctions coming up. We're heading into summer. Auctioneers are getting busy. They're gearing up, and it's quite a large amount of material that's turned on here, not just in the U.S. but in the EU as well. Tremont Auctions here in Massachusetts has another nice sale coming up. Some good textiles, some paintings, ceramics, and so forth. It just goes on and on. The other thing I wanted to mention was that Christie's is doing an online sale as well. And you want to check these out. Just because it's Christie's, don't be intimidated. This is a sale. This is online only, taking place over in the UK. There's some terrific ceramics, some good cloisonné pieces on here. Some very nice porcelains, of course, as always. Some of the things are getting a lot of interest already. This is getting quite a bit of interest right out of the box. And the estimates on their online sales are quite reasonable, so you got a shot at things. This vase, not surprisingly, this is actually in not London. This is Paris, excuse me, the Christie sale, and it's already getting a lot of interest. It's up to about 4,200 euros with a 2,000 to 3,000 euro estimate. But it's a very attractive vase, and it's good size. This thing is 14 inches tall. It's not some 6-inch vase. But this is the kind of thing that they're putting out over there. I noticed but in general, the Paris auction side of Christie's, it's very reasonable estimates. It's a little surprising in a few places, but you want to check it out, all right? And especially if you live in the EU and you're watching this from there, take a ride down there. Pick up your stuff and do some bidding. I think you're gonna get some buys. It just looks that way to me from what I'm seeing. Alrighty, and the other thing I wanted to mention was Sotheby's is doing an online sale out of New York. All right, so if you're in the U.S., you want to check this sale out. There's some very nice things. We're going to go through a few of the lots because I know a lot of you are in the greater New York area. It's an easy drive. Even if you're in Boston, if you get something good, it's worth the ride. And we're going to take a peek at some of them. One of them is this very nice blue ground and a little gilt decoration still on it. Yen vase. Very nice. Kangxi period. It's about 18 or so inches tall, as I recall. 17 3/8 inches tall. Modest estimate, $2,000 to $3,000. It's had a couple of bids. It's up to $2,200 US. I think it's a $3,500 to $4,500 vase. See how that goes. But it's a good looking one. It looks like it's in nice shape. Came from a Dutch dealer, and his tag is still on the bottom. All right, and then the robe buyers out there, is this really pretty apricot color, probably late Qing or early Republic period informal robe, but beautiful apricot ground, really nice needlework on it. If you're a robe buyer, you want to look at this. This is a really pretty, top quality robe. Really, really is. All the way through. It looks to be in great condition from top to bottom, and estimated at $2,000 to $3,000 US. Right now it has no bids yet. Opening bid of $1,800, which I think is reasonable for that. Good thing. And if you're not living in New York, you can get robes shipped very inexpensively. They just fold them up, put them in an envelope, and stuff them into a little box. Very simple. And Beijing Glass, or Peking Glass as we used to call it, has not gone up a lot over the years in value for some reason. I don't really understand it because it's stupendously wonderful. The Chinese domestic market is just starting to show some interest in it. And there's a number of good Peking Glass pieces in the sale. This, I think, is the most interesting. It's a water coupe, yellow ground, and then they have these applied chillungs climbing over it in green. It's a very interesting little pot, nice looking water pot. And here it is down the side, but very fine quality carving. $600 to $800 US estimate. It's got a couple of bids. It's up to $700. To me, that looks like a $2,000 or $3,000 piece of Peking glass, but we'll see. I think this is just they're putting reasonable estimates on there. They're encouraging bidders. It's very smart, and you get a shot at it at least. Go through and just, like I've said before. I know it sounds crazy. Go through and carpet bomb these auctions with bids. Just leave bids. Leave a bid that if you could get it for that price, you'd be delighted to get it. And of course, don't bid more than you can afford. But if you've got a few dollars laying around, just go through and hit everything that looks interesting to you, and you see what you come out with. All right, and then there's this really pretty. This is a 19th century Peking glass bottle vase with it's red. Laid over a yellow body. The yellow is quite appealing. It's a very nice, bright yellow, nice lemon yellow, and the carving quality on it looks quite good with the figure and then the building going up to the top. And it's very similar to the examples you saw that were done during the Qianlong period. This one is a 19th century example. It is not marked as far as I know, but very, very pretty. And these tend to be 9 inches or so, 5 inches tall, under 10 inches typically, but a nice looking example. $600 to $800 estimate. And if you're a Yixing buyer and you also collect snuff bottles, you really want to check this out. This is very unusual. It's a slip decorated Yixing snuff bottle with loop handles on the sides. This is quite rare, actually. It's got no bids yet. It's got a $3,000 to $5,000 estimate, which I don't think is crazy, and a $2,500 opening bid. But a beautifully done piece of polished Yixing with white slip over it. It looks like it's in nice condition. I love how you can almost see how the potter applied the clay for the handles over here. Really, really nice looking pot. So do check that out if you're a snuff buyer, because you don't see good Yixing snuff bottles all that often. They did turn up in the late 19th century, but the finish on them wasn't very attractive. The shape was kind of boring on a lot of them. It just looked like a sort of generic little snuff bottle. This is a nice one. It's got a landscape with this little scholar's hut in the foreground. I like that. And then there's a couple of good lots in this sale too. This is one of them. It's a grouping of obviously 4 monochromes. There's a lot of good monochromes in the sale. There's a number of them. And this is an interesting little lot. I like all of them. They date 18th to 19th century. In particular, like this little Mei Ping vase here with the crackle in the body. I think that's quite attractive. And I like this turquoise vase on the side. I like all of them. Those are the little round bud vase. That's sort of a late 19th century design shape. They did them in the Gongshu period, so forth. Anyway, the whole lot is estimated at just $2,000 to $3,000 US, with a $1,300 opening bid, and there's no bids yet on this. It starts in 3 days. All right, so that's worth checking out, especially if you live around New York. You buy it, you go in, you don't have to deal with shipping. You just pick it up and take it, keep the pieces you want, sell them, do whatever. But I think there's going to be room to move. And then onto this very attractive pair of yellow ground Famille Rose jardinières. These are quite nice. How big are these? These are, I think, pretty good size, right? Yeah, they're 15 inches across at the top, but nicely done, very strong, vibrant colors. They are a matched pair or a mirrored pair, and nice enamels all the way through. And as it said, it's early 20th century. They do have a repair at the bottom, and find out what that is down here on the lower right, whether that's a break or a scrape or a chip or what it is. But the one on the left looks fine. And if one of them is fine, we've seen in the last few weeks, one pot like this, we had a couple of them. They sold for, I believe they were in the $2,500 to $3,500 range for one. So there's some room here. There's only one bid on the lot so far. And then this, the Qianlong period copper red dish. There's a lot of fakes of these on the market. We get through the inquiry program on the identification assistant. We get inquiries for these all the time. They turn up everywhere. And here they provide a really nice image of it. And this is a nice way you can learn about them. And if you take a look at these plates, you notice the foot rim has sort of an ivory tone to it. It looks very smooth and natural. All right, the fakes don't look that way. They look snow white. They look ridiculous. But the foot rim here should have a slightly ivory tone, very slight tannish color to it. And the white inside here is not snow white, obviously. It has a noticeable blue tone to the bottom where they apply the mark. Now, these are just some of the little things you should see. If it has snow white feet and a snow white bottom, you want to be suspicious of it. And then over here on the right-hand side, where the reflection hits, you get a good sense of what the glaze is like. There's lots of little, sort of like tiny bits of bubbles and slight roughness. It's not super glossy. All right, you can see how the glaze reacted actually in the kiln when they fired it, and that's what you want to see. It's things like that, and you want to see all of them. You don't want to see just one aspect and the rest of it doesn't look right. You want it all to look right. This has 9 bids. It's up to $4,500. It's a real one, and we'll see how that goes. I suspect it'll probably bring 6,000 to 8,000. That's sort of the range they go in. And then over here to this really pretty Qianlong period flower bowl. And again, they make a lot of copies of these. These are heavily reproduced, and this is a real one. Obviously, you can, if you look at it carefully and notice the way each little line is drawn in the peony at the top here, and how everything is so organized, so neatly drawn. Nice soft enamels, and you see slight irregularities along the rim here. Which is normal. If it's absolutely perfect, be a little suspicious of it. And again, you see that same sort of surface that we saw on the copper red piece, that slightly little fuzziness from little bubbles and bumps and things in the enamel when it was fired. It doesn't look like it's on a piece of glass, and that's what it should look like. And this one has no bids yet, a $4,500 opening bid with a $5,000 to $7,000 estimate. Very attractive bowl, very attractive bowl, and it is marking period. And then over here to this is Shuandong Kong form celadon vase, and they did these on some of them in the Shuandong period, and prior to that during the Gongshu period, and they are almost interchangeable. There's the difference between the two periods is pretty much non-existent. The only difference is really the mark. And this is a very fine example, I have to say. I love the way the foot thickens up there just so neatly, straight across at the bottom. And then all the trigrams are very tidily done. The surface has a slight orange peel texture here in between. And then, of course, the mouth and then the white lip around the top where the glaze pulled back a little bit while it was being fired. All very attractive, and the bottom of it looks exactly the way these should look. I'm only going into a little bit of detail on this because there's so many fakes of these around, so many copies, because they're hard to discern. There aren't many live copies around. And if you look at this, you can see a few things right away that look very encouraging as to its authenticity, because it is. One of them is the way the foot is done. You notice how beautifully done that foot rim is. It's smooth, it's polished, it's been hand trimmed and then smoothed down and rounded. and you have a little bits of browning and whatnot, maybe from a stand coming around the inside. And what you don't see on it is that uniform. On fakes, they'll take the bottom of a dish, a plate or something like this, and they'll rub it over sort of a smooth piece of slate or stone or something to create a very uniform gray line that runs all the way around the ridge of the foot, the highest point on the foot right here. And it'll be nonstop. It'll be very, very consistent. And here you don't see that. This is what it should look like. If it's just from natural use, sitting on a stand, you have some areas that were more in contact, other areas that weren't. And it looks like something happened here. They might have rubbed it up against something with maybe a red magic marker at some point. Who knows? But at any rate, that's what the foot should look like. Irregularities, but overall very nicely done, white and smooth, and not much iron, obviously, in the paste at this point. They did a very good job of cleaning the clay, and the mark, of course, is spot on. Just a good-looking pot all the way around with a reasonable estimate of $8,000 to $12,000. The Guangzhou examples we've seen them. They bring $15,000 to $25,000, $20,000 to $30,000, and the Shandong examples bring a little less. Even though these are rarer, the Guangzhou pieces are more common, but they're slightly earlier, and these pieces are in numbers much rarer. So I think they're worth collecting. That's my view on it anyway. They're nice looking. Anyway, all that stuff we just talked about is the kind of things that we have on the global pages. And we charge for that. It's $4 a month. And we update the pages at least twice a week, and we do little updates throughout the day as we come across things while we're doing things on the web, and we'll throw it on there and get it in there for you. But there's a lot of content on there. And when there's something going on at bottoms, we include that too, and so forth. So, at any rate. And for those, there's hundreds of subscribers now on this, and it makes it really worthwhile doing for us because it gets a lot of information out there, and a lot of people we hear from auction houses that say, "Oh, one of your subscribers called us up. They saw your listing for us." We've seen it with a number of auction houses here and so forth. The other thing I wanted to mention was the Pandofeni Sale took place earlier this week, and we had talked about it. That great Datsai enamel vase, and there's something going on with it. I don't know what happened, but according to somebody I know, they said it sold for 1.4 or 1.6 million plus the buyer's premium, and the Charger sold for $250,000 roughly plus the buyer's premium. And on their site it says it went unsold, but my understanding was that the reserve was below what it sold for. So I don't know if what happened. We're trying to find out right now what happened with that vase, because it may be that the sellers suddenly at the last minute maybe got a little greedy and bumped up the estimate, bumped up the reserve. I don't know what happened, but somebody that I know said that the reserve gave me an idea what the reserve was, and it was well below 1.5 or $6 million. So. We'll see. I think 1.6 plus premium was about right for it. I think last week we said it should bring a couple of million, and it got there. But I don't know what happened. It's showing up on Invaluable right now as an unsold lot. So we'll try to find out what the story is. Always intrigue around high-end vases with certain buyers around the world, at any rate. And let's see. And now over to this week's newsletter page. What happened over on there? These are the things, obviously, that we find that we put on our own website. It's free. You can come over and see what we found that are being listed on eBay and CATAWIKI each week. And last week we picked out some pretty good things. And this week it seems like there's an increase now. Things are coming back more. I hope they are, because it's been a little quiet, some of you noticed. And I'm not sure why. Maybe people are taking the first few weeks of the summer off. Maybe some of the restrictions are getting lifted and people are doing a little less work, getting out more. I don't know. Let's hope everybody gets back to work. One of the things I wanted to mention was that we threw this in there last week. This was normally we show only auction items, but this was a buy it now with an $88 price on it. It's a Wan Lee deer crackle form blue and white jarlet. These are fairly well known. This was sort of a nice one. It had a little mouth roughness, as I recall, around the mouth or something. Right there, yeah. You can see it on the inside of the mouth. Tiny bit of roughness, but a genuine one, a nice one. And somebody, I'm assuming this had been on there for a while, and somebody made an offer and the seller accepted it. This was a fellow over in California, but it was very reasonable. The shipping was only $9 across the United States, so I hope one of you got it. It was a good-looking little pot. And the other thing that was interesting was on CATAWIKI, they sold this rather nice 18th century famille rose Chinlung type dish, or Chinlung dish, for 76 euros. Not bad, and it looked to be in fairly good shape all the way around. I think that was a pretty good buy. And 76 euros plus shipping. Can't beat that. And then on to this. This was an interesting lot, and I put this in. This was in the newsletter page for 2 weeks. And what this is, and many of you have never seen it, but if you're familiar with ceramics in the Middle East, you instantly recognize what this pattern is. This is a Turkish Iznik pattern. Very, very desirable, and it was first done on Iznik Pottery. Iznik Pottery started out, their earliest pieces started out as doing copies of early Chinese blue and white pieces because they were so popular in the Turkish court and in the Iranian court, the Persian courts, and so forth. And they began these very, very refined kilns and decorating studios where they were copying early blue and white grapes pattern, Ming porcelain, that kind of thing. And then eventually their own style evolved into what they put on them. And you have these sort of now Middle Eastern examples, or looking examples, that they began doing with Turkish, with tulips and all kinds of flowers and things. They're beautiful, beautiful things. And this is an example that was done in Satsuma. And so you have the tradition that was started in Turkey copying the Chinese, and now you have Japanese potters in Satsuma copying the Turkish output of Iznik. And I think they do turn up once in a while. They're pretty rare, and I'm shocked they don't bring more money. I'm absolutely shocked because they didn't make a lot of them. I think there was only 1 or 2 places that were even known to make them. Very unusual. And this was a nice big one. It was a charger, and the decoration on it was terrific. It was done, in Meiji period, roughly. Here it is. And it just went for 205 euros. And this thing was pretty good size. This was 38 centimeters. This is a nice big plate. Here's what the back of it looks like, and it's signed, of course. There's the maker's mark, the signature on there. And I remember I looked these up once, and all of them seem to have this same mark or associated mark with it. So at any rate, I think it's a nifty category because of the layers of the evolution of the design and how it ended up. So it went China to the caravans in the 14th, 13th century to Turkey. They began making copies, and then it was picked up and brought back by Japanese potters in the Meiji period. Sort of interesting. And then over here at CATAWIKI was this. This was a very unusual pair of Hirado-type vases that are carved out in the middle here, and they have these little scenes with peony blossoms and so forth, with this nice window cut out. And these are not enormous vases. I think these are 7 or 8 inches tall or something. 8 inches tall, roughly. Yeah, roughly a little over 8 inches, but very attractive. And I think they went reasonably. They went for 290 euros. I think that's pretty good. That was a nice-looking pair of Japanese Hirado from the Meiji period. Very nice. And then over on eBay was this, a pair of, these are probably early Republic, but nicely decorated Femme Vert with rose enamel on a light blue ground. These little, they call them hat stand. I would just call them vases because they don't have any open work on them. And these had at one point in their lives been made into a lamp, obviously. And this thin porcelain on the bottom, the way this looks, is fairly typical of early Republic example work. On the Qing examples, the bottoms tended to be thicker. And these are very, very thin. And the red marks, and it says say China, so it was done after 1895. And I suspect they were done between 1900 and 1920, somewhere in there. Anyway, they did well. They brought $939, which is pretty good for Republic period, early Republic porcelains. And then over here to this very, very pretty, elegant, tightly drawn famille rose vase with sort of kissing food lions on the neck, but beautiful turquoise ground and beautiful, very, very sort of tightly decorated throughout the blue field here, but strong pinks coming off of it. And then you have these nice sort of different shaped cartouches left fairly open with birds and flowers and butterflies and so forth. I think it's a very attractive combination. And the vase did well. It ended up selling for $3,338. This was Ancient Arts over in Breda, the Netherlands. You always know his stuff. He always puts a peach in the scene, so you get an idea of the size of it. And how tall was this in actual inches? 17 inches, a good sized pot, but very nicely decorated. Beautiful color, very elegant. And then over here to this. This was something we had a couple of inquiries on, and a lot of people thought it was a Kangxi example. This was not a Kangxi pot. All right, and it's got the octopus scrolls that you see on Japanese Arita wares. They also did them on Chinese porcelain, so don't be confused by it. But a number of people wanted to know if this was a Kangxi pot, and it is not a Kangxi pot. It's a late 19th century one, and if you look at the bottom of it, you can see the base, how it has this sort of watery aspect to the glaze, very, very light blue double circle, sort of awkwardly a little too far apart. And then you look at the way the foot rim is done, and it's got that sort of rounded and sort of sugary with this very, very sharp line. It's not Snow White or ivory the way you'd want to see it on Kangxi pieces. I have to say, though, that the blue in a few places on it looks pretty good. But when you look at things like this lotus blossom here, and you see how they shaded in the blue, it just looks wrong. And the mouth here doesn't look nearly as smooth and dense and hard as the raw porcelain would look on Kangxi pieces. They all have to add up. All the elements have to add up. Here's a side shot of the foot. Tiny bit of iron oxide showing through, but the foot is the wrong shape, the wrong color. It doesn't have that compact, hard, dense surface that you see on Kangxi pieces. And the thing took off. It ended up selling for $516, which was kind of surprised by it. Ruface sold this over in Dorchester, and he just listed he dated it properly, Qing 19th century. Maybe a couple of people just really, really, really loved it. It was about 7 or 8 inches tall, 8 or so inches tall. Looks Kangxi, but is late Qing, 1880s, 1870, 1890, or even 1900 for that matter. All right, and then over to this. This was sort of a little, I like mongrel pieces that have been knocked around and had sort of a life, and they got a few repairs on it, and it's so what you expect from something that's several hundred years old. And I threw this in here because I love the shape of this teapot. I know it's damaged. The lid has been damaged on it. There's the remaining gilt decoration on it. But you look at all this, and you can realize how beautiful it must have been when it was absolutely new and perfect. There's the top. Looks like somebody threw it against a wall and then glued it back together again. But the shape of the teapot itself and this blue suffused glaze on here is just beautifully done, and the shape is classic 18th century, early 18th century and older ware. Okay, and it ended up selling, I think, very reasonably, $229. Somebody someday will get that little lid fixed up, and it'll look great. But it's a beautiful color and a beautiful shape and authentic. And yeah, it's lived a life, but haven't we all? Notice the hand, so that's the way it goes. And that's that. And then on to this, the Chinese export platter with the boy on the water buffalo and the pair of geese, so forth. It's got a little bit of wear to the gilt here and there, but it's a nice authentic example. Here's a picture of the back of it. Good 18th century porcelain. And let me see here. How big was this? It was 33 centimeters, so a little over a foot long, about a 12-inch platter, and somebody picked it up for $420, which is fine. This is a popular pattern. It's sort of a stock pattern that you see on 1770 or so export sets, platters, and this was a nice one. And they also did plates in this pattern and other pieces as well. And then over here to this lotus decorated famille rose dish. Quite nice little plate here. And this is going to be in the newsletter this week because I think it's a bargain for $125. It hasn't sold yet. This is something that has not sold. This is a seller out in California that has it. And I'm going to throw this in the newsletter this week. I've got a few things I'm going to show you. We're going to put in the newsletter this week. And for some reason, they didn't put the dimensions in unless there's a ruler in the picture somewhere. So maybe email them. It looks to me like a 6 or 8 inch plate, but do check that out. It's only 125, and it's nicely done, nice looking lotus blossoms. And then back over to this, the Arabic signed rose mandarin plate. again with the Arabic script in the middle. And without the Arabic script in the middle, if this is, how big is this plate? I'm going to guess, how big is it? What is it? 12-inch dish. If this were without the Arabic script on it as a 12-inch dish, it would be worth around, how much would that be worth? Probably $200 maybe, $250 maybe. Throw the script on there, it makes a big difference. And this is why you want to be on the lookout for Arabic script on these export plates, because they did make them. They didn't make them often. Sold for $760. And you can come across them in group shops or at auctions, and folks don't recognize the dramatic difference. And you might be able to pick these up for sort of the high end of $250, something like that. And you can make money with them. You can triple your money if you don't want to keep it. I think keeping them is cool. They also made punch bowls, which are very desirable. And then over to this. This is a funny little teapot. It's a wine pot with bamboo and relief work dragons. Very typical of Hong Kong and Shanghai work of the late 19th and early 20th century. But the mark on it, I couldn't read it. It was so badly done. Or maybe the photographer, I don't know. I tried to look it up in the book in the reference section to figure out who this is, because I thought it was a very nice piece of silver. He's got it dated correctly. This is Super Shrink is selling it roughly 1890. And it's unlike him to leave the name out. So if they didn't put the name in, that means they can't read the mark either. All right, but a perfectly nice example, and ended up selling for $1,675. So maybe somebody did find it and figured it out. All right, and then over to this, the apricot ground, late Qing, early Republic period robe. Beautifully done, nice looking gilt dragons on it. The sellers provided some good details with a little bit of pulling up here in the shoulder, which does happen on these. It is silk after all. And but nice needlework all the way around. And it ended up selling for $1,150, okay? And this, I meant to say, this is only the front half of the robe. Whoever had this robe, they cut it in half down the, here. This is a one-faced robe. In other words, somebody cut away the back of it, or actually the front of it. This is the back of the robe. And it may be that something got on the front of the robe and damaged it, and they just decided to split it up the seams here and so forth. So it's basically half a robe. So as half a robe, it ended up still selling for $1,150, which I think is pretty good. And then over here to this, back on CATAWIKI, was this nice Kangxi plate with dragons and blue running around the rim. We talked about it last week. This was quite attractive, and I like the center with the single lotus blossom surrounded by birds and so forth. Very, very attractive. Here's a nice detail of it. And somebody picked this up, I think, very reasonably. 141 pounds against a $150 to $200 pre-auction estimate, which was about right. But I think it was, of course, it's even a better buy when it's under the estimate. And as I recall, the shipping was very reasonable on it. So there you go. And then on to this. This is a peculiar piece. It isn't silver. It's silver plated over a copper repoussé body. Beautifully done. Not signed. I don't know who the maker was. And it was dated 1865, as I recall. Hold on. There it is, 1868, August 26, 1868. And for some strange reason, there's a name on here. And whoever photographed it didn't, and did the listing, didn't mention who that is. And you could read it. I can tell you could read it if you'd taken a good, clear, sharp photo of it. You never mentioned who it is, which is bad, because you can look them up usually. It's a seller over in the UK. Maybe he thought because it was plate it wasn't worth doing, it wouldn't bring much. Well, some people went after it. This sold for $1,841 or 1,320 pounds. It is just an interesting as all get out pot. I like the figures. I love the facial expression of that dragon. He has sort of a hopeful look on his face. But the detail work of the battle scenes and so forth is excellent. And this is over a repoussé copper body and then silver plated. Pretty unusual object here. They didn't do a lot of these. And I hope somebody finds the rest of the story on who this was dedicated to. When you find pieces that are dedicated to somebody, commemorative things, especially from China during that early period, there's often a written record of it. And if you go online and check whether it was presented by an organization or a private organization or some governmental branch, you can often look up and find out who the organization is, what they did, and so forth. We had a piece a few weeks ago that we did it on to do with the colony in Shanghai, as I recall, and it was a military honor. And but the story makes it so much more interesting than not. It just because it becomes a part of the piece. So you always want to find out. So I hope somebody that bought this will find out who that person is that it was dedicated to, because it's a very cool tankard. All right, now over to what's coming up this week. There's a few things I wanted to point out. There'll be more in the newsletter as always, but this was a nice looking thing. And the seller erred to the side of being conservative, and he called this a Qing Dynasty Celadon incense burner. It's not. It's a Ming Dynasty incise decorated incense burner, and has a beautiful lid on it with bats and so forth. We saw one similar to this a few weeks ago. I don't think this is the same one, judging by the lid, but nice little Jade Finial. They often did these lids to fit over incense burners, and they didn't reticulate them, so you couldn't use it as an incense burner with a lid. You had to take the lid off to light the thing up. But anyway, and they got in the habit of putting these very nice jade bits on as a finial on it. This thing is up to $576. It closes next Wednesday. As you can see by the size of it in his hands, it's a pretty good sized piece, and it should bring $1,600 to $2,400 pretty comfortably with all that, with the lid and the body, and the thing looks pretty good. All right, so check that out. The same seller, he's got a number of things. This is Max is a winner or something. Is a seller. I'll get it in a second. Has this very nice piece of Satsuma. Nice six-sided Satsuma body, signed on the bottom. You can look it up in your Satsuma book to see which clan of the Shimuzu clan did it, which member of the Shimuzu clan did it. And it's up to just $255. Ought to triple that by the time it's over. But nice looking piece of Satsuma, and make sure it's in good shape. Get a condition report. And also this very nice Kisi panel is going to be in the newsletter this week. It is a late Qing to early Republic example, but the colors are good. It's nicely laid out, and it will look great in a frame. All right, just don't ever, hang it in a public, in a sunny window or something, because it'll really mess it up. Silk does not like sunlight. It's up to $115. Ought to bring $300 or $400 by the time it's done, I would think. And then this Quanjan style tile. I think this was up a month or so ago, and maybe it didn't get paid for. I don't know why. It's quite attractive, but beautifully done landscape. It is probably early 20th century, but very nice painting with a bit of script in there. The shading looks good. I like the mountains. The hinting of mountains in the background. Very attractive. Here's that and that. And it's up to just $85. Closes in 5 days. Ought to bring $600 to $800. And then over here to this 18th century Famille Rose. It's a peony. I guess it's peony or peach. Oh, excuse me. It was a peach tree. Peach blossoms. There they are. Or pomegranates. Pomegranates and peach trees. Look at that. So you get the pomegranate, ripe pomegranate here, which is a symbol of fertility. Have many, because of all the seeds, have many children. And then you have the peaches over here. Very, very pretty piece. Nice looking custom stand that somebody went to the trouble of making for it. But it's an 18th century piece of porcelain. Beautiful colors, beautiful vibrant colors, all molded, relief worked and then painted. It's up to $585. It closes in 6 hours. It closes later today, so I hope you have a chance to get over there before it does. And it's good size too. The porcelain vase was about 8 or 9 inches tall. And then the big platter, another one of these great big Chinese export platters. They remain one of the great bargains in the Chinese porcelain world. Beautifully done 18th century porcelain, and you can generally pick these up for under $450 these days. I remember a day not that long ago they were going for $700 or $800. So a number of years ago, and now they've softened up. This one is up to $1883, and it closes in 5 days. All right. And that's about it for the week. Have a great weekend. If you haven't subscribed yet here, please do. And check out Bidamount.com, get the newsletter, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.